I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Total Apex Media. In this episode, it's going to be more based on bets and daily fantasy. Now, I'm here with Brandon Ellis. He is a writer for mainly, sports fantasy. We dabble in a lot of NFL, but today it's all NBA talk. So, Brandon, how are you feeling with? We got a 6-game slate looking ahead.
This 6-game slate tonight is actually pretty interesting after the trade deadline that just expired about an hour ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Couple interesting moves that were made. We're not going to talk about the moves on this show,
Mm-hmm.
but the slate today is actually other than the two national televised games are kind of straightforward games. So let's get on to it.
I was gonna say, in terms of just how you said, let's just dive into it. So, the first game we have the Dallas Mavericks going to the TD Garden to take on the Boston Celtics. Now, Anthony Davis is listed as questionable. He was available for shoot around after being limited in the practice ahead of the 76. Now, Brandon, is there a specific matchup or a way you're leaning? Me personally, it's Boston all the way due to, it's Boston at home, Western Conference team, finals rematch. But I want to know, am I overlooking this, that Boston could just run away with this thing early?
No, I don't think you're wrong. The only reason I don't think you're wrong is because the finals rematch kind of lost its luster with the Luka trade, obviously.
Yeah.
If Luka was there, I would say, oh, this is the game to watch tonight. I think the 10 o'clock game is probably going to need one more to watch than this one because I think Boston will run away with it after with the start of the second half. I think they'll win this by. I don't know if they'll cover, but I think they'll win this by 10.
Now, the elephant in the room is the Anthony Davis. Do you think he's going to play? And once again, it's a completely different team and game, offense, defense, all of this, that, and the third. If Anthony Davis does play, are you excited to see him in a Mavericks uniform if he does indeed suit up tonight?
The Anthony Davis for me would be an exciting DFS option. If we get into the fantasy in a little bit here,
100%, yeah.
Because I love Davis always. He's always a good stud pickup in DFS. Him and Tatum probably going to be a great matchup on paper. The only thing is if he's at the 4 and Tatum's at the 4, I think Tatum's a little bit can get him off the dribble a little bit more. So that'll be tough for Davis because he's been mostly in the paint the last few years in LA. So they have to get back to the days of New Orleans where he was actually guarding people on the wing a little bit. So that would take some time to get back used to if Gafford, like the spacing with him and Gafford. I'm interested to seeing that if he does play tonight, especially against a Boston team that just loves to shoot the 3 ball. They attempt like 50 a game. So I love the fact that this Boston team just shoots the 3 ball if they can make it, and that's live and die by the 3, and they will live and die by the 3. I kind of like that. I like the aggression.
Yeah. Now, you dabbled a little bit into the fantasy side of it. Is there a specific matchup or a key position that you're looking at that might not be a household name? If Anthony Davis plays, Anthony Davis is always almost a must start, depending upon, there's only about 2 matchups that he's not just an auto let's start. So is there a undernamed or a or not a household name per se that you could target in daily fantasy?
For me, I think Derek White tonight. Derek White against Kyrie Irving. That's the matchup to look at. Kyrie's going to get his, I think, still, but Derek White guarding Kyrie will make life difficult for Kyrie Irving, and I think Derek White will contribute at least 35, 36 fantasy points with steals and blocks in this game.
We know he's one of the best shot blocking, just pure guards in the NBA. He led the NBA last season in blocks from as a guard, and I mean, in terms of Derek White, he's at 6,300 on DraftKings, averaging about 32.8 fantasy points per game. Now, I really like his game, and I love that you shouted out Derek White. He's one of my favorite players, especially on the Celtics. And you're talking to a Jason Tatum hater,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you gotta love some kind of Celtics. You know, the Jaylen Brown, the Derek Whites. Those are your not unsung heroes, considering that Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP last season. Talk about his. If you talk about Derek White's, backcourt partner Drew Holiday, he is currently listed questionable for a shoulder injury.
Hmm.
Do you think if he's rolled out that with whoever it would be inserted into the starting lineup, whether it be Peyton Pritchard, do you think that that is a matchup that you could see the Mavericks kind of abusing a little bit?
If whoever's guarding, but I just don't know with Dinwiddie if Dinwiddie does start. I don't know if Dinwiddie can actually expose that matchup per
Yeah.
se, because I like Dinwiddie's game. He's always been a great scorer and stuff like that. But Boston's so well versed and help defense in their scheme. If they sense the matchup's not going in their favor, they'll just send Porzingis up into a quick double, which could open up the lot for Gafford in this game. That's something to keep an eye on too. Is if Gafford back in the lineup and playing, it's something to keep an eye on. Is the backdoor lob in this game. Luka would have used that full-heartedly if he was on the Mavs.
Right.
Or he might use that tonight too if it gets into a situation where it's a quick trap and Gafford's like wide open on the backside.
Now, let's get down to the nitty gritty. One last, real quick, prediction. Do you think Dallas covers the 11-point spread in this game, or does Boston, like you potentially mentioned earlier, just run away with it?
I got Dallas covering the spread. I got them. I got it within right now 9 or 10. Boston will win 9 or 10. That's what I got.
For me, whenever you see spreads this big, especially with 11, there's a lot of room for backdoor covers. A team empties their bench and they take the foot off the gas. For me, I think they jump out to a big lead early. I think that Tatum and Brown do Tatum and Brown things in this game. I love that you shouted out Derek White, especially on the defensive end against Kyrie. I agree with your point. Now, we've seen Kyrie we've seen him struggle in Boston since he stepped on Lucky a couple years ago, which is just a little it's kind of an underlining story. But to dive into the next game, Houston, they're heading to Minnesota, and Minnesota, they're coming off that exciting double-digit win against the Chicago Bulls last night. Anthony Edwards goes for 49. Brandon, where do you see this game going in terms of how do you defend, Anthony Edwards, who was on a heater last night?
So before I I'm going to go into it because
dive on in.
I think this is going to be my lock of the day. I'm going to spoil that right now. This is my lock of the day.
Spoiling.
Minnesota plus 1.5.
That
home dog aspect. I don't know why I get Houston's really good team, but Anthony Edwards last night was so impressed, or the other night was so impressive. He's coming in hot. I like Naz Reid without Julius Randle in the lineup. That will be interesting to see when Julius does come back into this lineup. What they do. Does he go back to his 6-man role, or does Julius go to that 6-man role? Because Naz Reid has been on a heater as of late in fantasy, averaging over 40 the last couple of games in fantasy. So I like this Timberwolves team as constructed with Naz Reid and Gobert in the lineup. And I think they actually pull off this little underdog upset, if you want to call it that, over the Rockets tonight.
It's really interesting because Julius Randle is out with that shoulder injury that will keep him sidelined going into the All-Star weekend, and I'm backing your take 150%. I don't really see as to why they're a home dog. I understand that Houston has been the better team throughout the entirety of the season up to this point. However, we didn't even mention no Fred VanVleet, and Steven Adams is listed with doubtful with an ankle injury. Now, what does that mean? These two towers of Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert, we saw them run many lineups just like this last season, even when they had Cat, and when Cat would get into foul trouble or go to the bench. You still have Rudy Gobert, who's a fantastic paint protector. You have
Hmm.
Naz Reid, who can space the floor.
Yep.
Jaden McDaniels, I think, will do a really good job on Jalen Green. Do you have anyone specific in terms of someone you might like value wise for fantasy? Because we know Anthony Edwards is going to try and go right at Amon Thompson all game
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. I do like Amon. I like Amon Thompson. I like Jalen Green in this game if he can
Mhm.
get going. But my main DFS value was like I was shouting out Nas Reed. Nas Reed is like I said, he's been hot. I
Mhm.
would ride that train until he's not hot. That's where I'm at.
I backed that play yesterday, and he was lights out with that 22-point double double. Now, in terms of players that might need to step up, could we see like a Alfred Şengün 20 and 20 game like we saw him the other night against Brooklyn?
Yeah, I would say Sengun needs to have that type, not like a full 20-20, but he needs to have a good balanced production
Mhm.
against these two towers that Minnesota's got in order
Yeah.
to Houston me in this game.
Mhm. Now, could we see Dylan Brooks give like I know this is not betting wise or fantasy wise, but who do you think will be the number one who do you think will guard Anthony Edwards? You have Dylan Brooks, who's a more than capable
Mm-hmm.
wing defender. Amon Thompson, who's a young athletic freak in this league. I think it's only his second year, and
Mm-hmm.
he's been sensational up to this point in the season. Who do you think Houston throws at Anthony Edwards in this
I
game?
would I would say they would throw multiple matchups, but I think
Hmm.
primarily it would be Dylan Brooks.
Hmm. I could see
Primarily.
that to try and
Mm-hmm.
get in his head. He's
Mm-hmm.
feisty.
Mm-hmm.
He's scrappy. He's one of those guys that just kind of gets under your skin. There's been multiple sayings, just over the course of time where if he's your teammate, you love him, and if he's on the opposing team, you just can't stand him. Makes your skin crawl.
Yeah.
Um, from a fantasy perspective, for me, I mean, it's really hard not to go with the Nas Reed play again. However, I think if there is somebody off the bench that could be the difference in this game, Nikhil Alexander Walker. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen we've seen him be up and down all season long, especially coming off the bench. Excuse me, we saw how effective he was in the postseason coming off the bench, and I think he's a really streaky shooter that could be a big role in this game. Am I right in saying that the bench could be the difference in this game?
The bench play will be the difference, and I
Mhm.
think it could. Well, this could prove my theory wrong. I think Houston has a slightly deeper bench.
Mhm.
I think they do. Now, going off your Nikhil play, I think Dante, if the Minnesota wants to win this game, Dante DiVincenzo needs to step up a little bit.
Not to kind of rain on your parade or cut you off, but he is still recovering from that toe injury.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's gonna be out for at least maybe a couple more weeks.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Yeah, maybe.
I'm right there with you with when Dante comes back and this team is healthy.
Yeah,
Dante needs to be a big nice key piece when it
yeah,
comes to Minnesota's success come postseason time. Like, let's not get it twisted. We saw what Dante was in New York last year, and he
yeah.
was a dog, especially in the playoffs against the Pacers when Jalen Brunson goes down in Game 7, and he essentially was a one man show out there for New York. I really like the pick this offseason. Um, However, I think that this has potentially to be game of the night, and this is a slate that has a lot of high marquee teams like the Clippers and the Lakers and the Celtics. I think this game, with it being close, the spread's only 1.5. I
Yeah.
think that so I'm gonna toss this to you, and then I'll give my 2 cents. Who do you think wins this game?
Like I said, I spoiled it earlier. Minnesota wins.
Yeah.
I spoiled that earlier. I love how this team's playing the last few games, and I think Anthony Edwards is going to be the ball's going to be Anthony Edwards' hands at the end. And I think he makes a key play, either
Mhm.
pass to Nas Reed or Gobert lob, or he just gets a shot himself.
100%, and I'm double downing with you on that take. I think Minnesota is the home dog aspect of it. We saw Anthony Edwards drop 49 last night, and I don't really see any. I see him slowing down. Do I see another 50-point explosion? No. However, I can still see, in the high 20s, low 30s and still come away with the win. Now, we will go to Mile High, where the Denver Nuggets are hosting the Orlando Magic. Now, we got some late injury news on the Denver sideline. Brandon, can you fill us in on the update on the most recent injury report?
Yes, Russell Westbrook's out with a hamstring injury in this game for Denver, and also Peyton Watson's out with a knee.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Aaron Gordon's questionable with a calf, and Jamal Murray is questionable with a knee. As we're recording this show live right now at 4:15.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, the duo of Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. are coming off 77 points last night, and that's going to be tough for this Magic team.
Yeah. Do you think that Paulo Banchero has broken out of his slump? Because we saw him before last night's game in which he dropped 23 points and 9 assists and was very efficient in the game. Do you think that he's officially broken out of his slump, or do you think it's a one-off and this is just a bad matchup for him?
This matchup's bad for
Mm-hmm.
him. I think he's broken out of the slump, but this matchup tonight is not going to be a Paulo game.
Yeah.
Because Michael Porter Jr. can get in you in that 4 spot. And also Christian Brown can actually play good wing defense too on our bigger guy if needed be. But mainly MPJ is a great defender on the wing. And also Paulo can't really defend the 3 ball really well. And I think MPJ is going to have another good night tonight. I don't think it's going to be like 39 like last night, but it's going to be another good night for Michael Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of individual matchups, Jokic is a walking 40-point triple double whenever he wants. It seems as if he really does just score at will. Now, in my opinion, he draws a tough matchup with Goga Bataze, who's he's a big, strong center down low. He can really kind of fight off Jokic in the low post, and when it comes to limiting offensive rebounds and stuff like that. Am I seeing this matchup right, in which I think Goga could give Jokic some trouble?
Yes, I agree with that. Some trouble, but like we said, Jokic can still get his no matter who's the matchup. No matter if it's Wembanyama, no matter if it's Goga Bataza, or another good, big, strong European Jonas Valanciunas, type of player. Jokic has got the best post moves in the game right now. He's got the best presence, vision, everything like that in the game of basketball today. I love Nikola Jokic tonight to still get you about 70 to 80 fantasy points against this depleted health-wise Magic team.
Mm-hmm. Now, you kind of dabbled into Nikola Jokic just a little bit. Do you see any what's the phrase I want to use? Do you see any road to victory in terms of the Orlando Magic pulling off this pulling off an upset as a double-digit dog on the road?
If they can make the 3 ball, that's the only way. I think if they can make the 3 ball, like they could if they were fully healthy. That's the only way I could see them pulling off this improbable road upset. Because yes, Westbrook being out and Watson being out kind of hurts Denver's depth at the guard position. And if Murray's out, I could see it getting closer, of course. But for me, Jalen Suggs being doubtful with his quad injury, that's another big injury for the Orlando Magic. And I think Jalen Suggs being out is worse than having Paulo out. Here's why. He's their best defender on their best primary ball handler, the opponent's best primary ball handler, and he can shoot the 3 ball.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very well. And he's a great leader, like a floor general on that team. So it kind of that leaves them with Cole Anthony and Anthony Black, which is not the greatest like point guard situation for Orlando. So with that being said, if they can somehow shoot the lights out of the 3 ball tonight, I could see them keeping up. But with the altitude, it might be tough for Orlando tonight.
Yeah, I overall I really like this young Orlando team. I think they have a lot of really nice pieces when fully healthy. You have your Jalen Suggs, your Paulo Bancheros, your Franz Wagner's, and I thought even though it was a couple months ago, I really thought that Mo Wagner was having a fantastic season off the bench. He could have potentially put up a sixth man of the year type, type run. It sucks that he went out with that season ending injury. Um, do you think that this Denver team post trade deadline, now they didn't really make any moves, but just because they didn't make any moves doesn't mean that they're still not a confident bunch. We're not too far away from them, being up 20 in a game 7 at home, from them being and winning the NBA finals. Could you see this small stretch right before All-Star the stretch before All-Star break and post trade deadline, could you see them start to resemble the good or su- above average Nuggets teams of all? I'm sorry, I kind of got a little sidetracked.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with like I think they can, but only thing is I think the West is a lot better than what
Mhm.
they were in 20 when they were the best team in 23.
Right.
Because we saw last night this Oklahoma City team can just like that. They were down at halftime and they come out 13-0 run to get the lead right back and then
Hmm.
blow out the Phoenix Suns on their home court last night.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if MPJ keeps on playing like no like like he's been playing, then maybe. If
Hmm.
Murray keeps on improving, if Jokic is still Jokic, then they have, of course, they got a shot because they present a lot of matchup problems for a lot of the teams in the West. But it's going to be interesting to see starting tonight what they do, and it's going to be tough especially if Jamal Murray does not play either. That's going to be that's going to be an interesting aspect to this game, but we won't know until game time probably his status.
Right. Now, the last thing to do about this game, give me one position matchup or a player that you love fantasy wise. We know Jokic is going to get his. We know Paulo's going to try to get his, but give me maybe a sleeper pick or a name that's really flown under the radar for this specific game.
Christian Brown.
Hmm.
I really like Christian Brown. He's around that 5 to 6K mark right now on DraftKings. I would think around that
Yeah,
five
he's
six
around.
K.
It's funny you say in between 5 and 6 because he's right at 5,500.
Yep. So right in the halfway spot, that sweet spot, averaging about 20, 25, 26 fantasy points per game.
Hmm.
I love Christian Brown in this matchup in particular because the guard play of Orlando has not been the greatest, and I could see him having a bigger role especially if Murray's out. Now, if
Hmm.
Murray's not out, I still like him for that 20 around his average. But if Murray's in or Murray's out, I think Christian Brown could have a 30-point fantasy night.
Yeah, he's really shown a lot to me and improved every single season that he's been with, Denver. I think that, you see him start to gain a little bit more confidence on the court because, when they first acquired him, he was just a 3 and D guy off the bench, high energy guy, and then you see him start to build and gain confidence playing along, your stars like your Jamal Murray's and your Nikola Jokic's. I'm going to double down on that play as well. I love Christian Brown in this matchup. With Jalen Suggs being doubtful, they're probably going to start Cole Anthony and or Anthony Black in that 2 guard spot. And I think Christian Brown can really dominate that specific matchup. Both are subpar in terms of defense, and I could see Christian Brown having, like you said, a really solid night. I could see him, really pushing the ball in the fast break or a lot of back cut, just quick catch dunks. Now,
Mhm.
we are officially halfway done with the slate, but we're gonna take a commercial break, timeout, and do a little pause for the cause, if they say. And so we will see you guys right after the break. Welcome back, everybody, to Total Apex Media, going over the rest of tonight's NBA slate. Now, we're already halfway done, but now is when we really get to dive in. We are going over the Golden State Warriors going up against the LA Clippers in LA. we saw LA be very aggressive at the trade deadline, going after a center in Mark Williams that I think is a one-to-one. He's just a perfect fit. Now, before we dive into this game, Brandon, I want your take specifically on the Mark Williams acquisition. Do you think that they paid too much? Do you think it's a seamless one-to-one fit as I do? How do you see Mark Williams fitting into this team specifically?
So I like the fit. I love the fit like you do. I love the Mark Williams with Luka Doncic and LeBron James fit as much as the next person. The only thing I would have not done, and I get they had to, is the connect side of it. If letting go Dalton connect, having depth on that bench as a wing player, it might be a good thing for Dalton connect in the long run. Going to Charlotte. But for me, if I were the Lakers, I probably would have tried to got rid of another asset, if I could. But I get why they wanted to keep Reeves in the deal, because Reeves has been proven like, I can use Reeves in a good spot. So with that being said, I think Mark Williams is the perfect center for this Lakers team as constructed today. I love Mark Williams. He was a great player at Duke. Underrated player in that Duke team that he was on with Zion and everybody else like that back in the day. Obviously, or the middle 2020 team. He was a really underrated player. And I loved him in Charlotte. Now, granted, there's some people in Charlotte that, if you've seen the clip that's going around, the Charlotte playback or the Charlotte color commentator, I can't remember his name off the top of his head, was criticizing his effort against the Wizards in at the halftime report. The other night. And a lot of people are saying, that's why he got traded to the Lakers. I think Rob Pelinka valued a guy that can actually try to, be that kind of Anthony Davis kind of a role, but not exactly Anthony Davis in this team. And I think he'll have some more effort with LeBron James and Luka Doncic around him. I think he'll have some more effort. So we'll see how this one goes.
Now, in terms of the fit, I think you hit it to a T. I think he's a fantastic paint protector. I think he's a great rim runner, lob threat, all that, and then some. And just like you brought up his effort, maybe his effort was the reason why he was traded. But I know for sure that when you go from a losing franchise like Charlotte to one of the keystone, cornerstone, whatever words you want to say, franchise that the Los Angeles Lakers are, your effort's going to be there. You're obviously just going to put in just that. Maybe you were given 100% at Charlotte, you're going to give 110% when you put on the purple and gold. Now, to dive into this game specifically, we saw Golden State make that Jimmy Butler trade, who I would be shocked if he plays in this game. I'd be shocked if Mark Williams plays in this game as well. We saw what the Lakers have done over the past two games to really good contending teams that the New York Knicks and the Los Angeles Clippers are, and they did that without Anthony Davis. We've seen LeBron be as efficient as he always is. What can we see from the King tonight?
The King tonight will have another King-like performance. He probably wants to make a statement against this Golden State team saying, okay, even though y'all don't have Jimmy Butler yet, I'm still the King. I still run things around here in this NBA. And I think the King will have a vintage King performance in this game. Look for him to be that kind of like start continuing to being the five kind of in some instances in this game. Look for him to actually do some screens and set some screens and roll off some screens and look for either look for a three or get the layup or dunk himself. Look for LeBron just to be LeBron James. Also, I keep an eye on Austin Reeves tonight. I think Austin Reeves is going to be a strong DFS play tonight against a lackluster Warriors 2-guard spot. Especially if they put Steph Curry on Austin Reeves too on the defensive side of the ball. The Warriors like to hide Steph Curry a lot in these matchups, and I expect to see them play whoever defense or whoever offense on Steph. I think they're going to run LeBron pick and roll with Austin Reeves on Steph Curry in this game tonight.
I think that it's a really good point because we have seen Golden State teams, especially in the past, try to find where is Steph. Is he guarding whoever in the corner, just standing alone? We saw LeBron, even though it was way back when, we saw when LeBron was in Cleveland the second time, Steph kind of guard that J.R. Smith-esque role, and then J.R. would come and set the pick to try and get Curry in the action. Now, you already dabbled into a little bit of the fantasy side for the Lakers. Who is a key player that you could see really jump off the screen and make an impact for this Golden State team?
For Golden State, I like Brandon Brzezinski finally coming back. I like him.
Yeah.
To make some kind of an impact. Obviously, you got your Currys. Your Curry's gonna try to do what Curry does.
Mm.
If Draymond actually wants to step up a little bit, I think this is a game for Draymond. To be under like Draymond Greenvold. I think this is the game that Draymond actually performs well. Call me crazy. I think Draymond will actually have like around 25, 26, 27 fantasy points tonight.
It's interesting you brought up Draymond Green because I thought he played really good despite the loss last night. I'm all over the Pods play as well. I think it's a really nice spot when you look in terms of all their attention is going to be on Steph Curry. And even if Pods is slid into the starting lineup for tonight's game, we saw him play big minutes last night. We saw him be really efficient and score the ball really well in last night's game. Now, big question: do you think Golden State pulls off the upset, covers the 7.5, or do you just see the Lakers just kind of doing what they've done over the past week?
The Lakers do what they do the past week. I think the Lakers covered the 7.5. I think it'll be close through 3 quarters, and I think they pull away in the 4th quarter.
Now, is Pods your DFS play, or
Yes.
or are you leaning more Austin Reeves in this matchup? Because you did say you like them both, and I'm right there with you. And they both have favorable matchups in both teams' perimeter defense, especially, is not it's not up to class as they say, and they both draw easier-ish matchups. Do you have a favorite out of the two, or are you just like either or and you can't go wrong?
Well, you can't go wrong with either or, but I lean Reeves. I think Reeves will have to be the safer DFS play. The Pot is the sleeper for me.
Now, going on from LA to Portland, as they are hosting the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are a 1-point underdog. Now, Zach LaVine made his Kings debut last night, and it didn't turn out well. He only had 13 points and was not very efficient in the loss. Now, do you think this is a Kings team that made the right moves at the trade deadline? And could you see them making a run in a very, very strong Western Conference?
That's a two-sided question there, Lawson. Do I think it's good moves? Yes. I think they make good moves. Do I think they make a run this year? No, I don't. Not this year. I love what they did by getting the 25 pick from the Charlotte Hornets, like the extra pick that Charlotte had.
Right.
I like that. I like the fact that they got LaVine. I like the fact they got Valanciunas. Don't get me wrong. I like those moves. But losing De'Aaron Fox has shown especially what De'Aaron did last night down in Atlanta. It shows
he was excellent.
He was excellent, and it shows. What it shows is they need a guard. They need a point guard, and they don't have that right now without De'Aaron Fox. LaVine last night was LaVine of old where it comes to inefficient play from the outside game, and inefficiency, like only scoring 13 in your debut is not the greatest look when that's your main grab from that De'Aaron deal. So yeah, I just don't like the Kings spot because I think San Antonio can pass them up very easily. I think the Suns are still a great team. I think the Warriors got better. I think obviously Minnesota around that same spot too is better than they are right now. I think next year is the year to keep an eye on San Antonio, especially if the pick the 25 pick they get lands around that Ace Harper, Bailey flag spot. If they can somehow get one of those 3 players, mainly one of the guards from Rutgers, on that team, then talk to me about Sacramento making a run for a playoff spot. Until then, no, not this year.
Now, in terms of just this game specifically,
Mhm.
these are two. One team's coming in really hot in the Portland Trailblazers, winning 9 of their last 10,
Yep.
and the Sacramento Kings are, they're hovering around that 500 mark over their last 10 games. Is there a side you're leaning? Is there a specific side, team, matchup way that you're leaning for this game specifically?
I'm leaning Portland. I like
Mm-hmm.
this. I like them coming in 9 out of 10, coming at home, being at home against a Sacramento team that's still working the kinks of the Levine, DeRozan, Sabonis trio.
Mm-hmm.
I like Portland. I really do. I like Aiton. He's been playing well. Shaden Sharp's been playing well off the bench. You got Scoot Henderson. You got Anthony Simons. You got you got this young team, and I like Klingon coming off the bench, and in some spots too.
Right.
They're a young, exciting team, and Billups has got them playing well right now.
Now, with them being winners of 9 of their last 10, do you think it finally clicking, or is it just they've drawn up a couple favorable matchups? Because we did see them beat the Suns twice. Do you think that it's them coming together, or as I just mentioned, that them this just being a easier stretch in their schedule?
I think for me, it's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
It's a little bit of both. I think they're coming together, but I think they've had some favorable matchups in that can in their favor. The Suns games they were without Durant. I think we won at least one of those games. The Suns didn't have KD, and then like I said, they are coming together. But it's like a few of those games were like teams they should beat. I think
Right.
even at this stage, and that's the thing. I think they came back against was it Indiana? They came back the other night against. I
Hmm.
can't remember off the top of my head. I
Yeah, it
think
was.
yeah. So the Indiana game, they came back. That's a good. That was a good. That was a good test for this young team.
Absolutely.
Tonight will be another big test because, like I said, that on paper you look at the Kings that Levine, DeRozan, Sabonis trio will get you a lot of opportunity and a lot of opportunity for wins supposedly. But if they can't hit the outside shots, if Malik Monk can't step in and hit an outside shot, if Levine can't get his outside game going,
Hmm.
I like Portland. Portland can get going from outside enough to win this game tonight.
Yeah. Now, is there a player on each side that you like, whether it be like you just brought up Malik Monk, or are you just a full Sabonis is going to do what Sabonis does, or could there be a player under the radar like a Shaden Sharp or a Scoot Henderson, or hell, even a Donovan Clingan that could really kind of shock people's lineups in fantasy today?
I think today, I like Simons and I like Sharp. I think those are
Mm,
the two plays from Portland side that I like a lot because, like I said, like we said, the guard play for Sacramento right now is a little questionable. I like Levine a lot normally, but his defense is not the best of the times. And so whoever Levine's guarding can get their buckets at times.
right.
I do like Sabonis in this matchup. I really do. I like Sabonis a lot. I don't think Valanciunas. Oh no, Valanciunas might play, so the Sabonis at the 4 might be even better tonight. Um, I think also too. I think Aiton will have a decent game tonight, even with Valanciunas out there. There
Mm,
was some times this year that Valanciunas, even though he was in Washington, and like we said earlier with Mark Williams' effort, um, being on a bad team might diminish your you might not show as much effort. I think Valanciunas comes out, plays okay tonight, but I think Aiton will have the better game out of that matchup at the center spot.
100%. And I'm actually going to lean Sacramento. I think it was just the first game bugaboos for Zach Levine. And once
Mm-hmm.
again, with the spread being one, it's essentially a pick 'em,
Yeah,
because very rarely are games decided by 1 point. Now it's more often than you think, but it's less than what you would kind of think, which is kind of it's weird due to with the spread only being one. Like I said, it's essentially a pick 'em. I'm rocking with the Kings. I like Valanciunas the addition. I think Zach Levine's gonna bounce back. I really like this. You know, it's not weird. It's not so far away that we saw when they were team Light the Beam and they were on fire and they were just a really fun young up and coming team. Now they don't have De'Aaron Fox anymore, but I think Malik Monk can still be serviceable at that point guard spot. Now we're going into the last game of this 6-game action pack slate. The Indiana Pacers are traveling to LA to take on the Los Angeles Clippers. Both teams really, looking to bounce back from losses. You have the Clippers that got embarrassed by the Lakers, and then you have the Pacers that essentially blew that game kind of to Portland, even though Portland did look really good in that game. Can you give us a little bit of an insight as to this matchup in particularly between the Pacers and the Clippers?
I think for me, it's going to come down to James Harden versus Tyrese Halliburton. Whoever plays better in this game at that point guard spot will win this game. If James Harden is not efficient and he shows the James Harden of old, where he's inefficient at times, costs his team with a lot of turnovers, I think Indiana will come in and steal this game. Now, the thing is, I said this the last time I was on the NBA Bets Fantasy Show for Total Apex Media. The wall in LA can play a role. Now, it did not play a role that night when we had the Lakers and Clippers. It did not. But the wall can play a role when it comes to missed free throws. And Indiana has shown that they'll miss a free throw too. So that's something to keep an eye on, that wall aspect. I love what they did in the Intuit Dome with that wall. It should be interesting. This game should be an interesting, close battle. I like Indiana to cover to get that out of the way. The aspect of the betting side of it, I love Indiana to cover in this game. I could see Indiana winning this game outright.
Wow.
Outright. I could see it. I think the running gun might give the Clippers some trouble here, especially without, without the depth they just lost today with the Bones Highland and Trey Mann deal. To get Bogdan, which is a good deal, but they won't have Bogdanovich tonight, probably, most likely. Now it's a later games like 10 o'clock. Normally it takes a day for the physicals to get through and when it's pending.
And all that jazz.
All that smart stuff. So
right.
I love the running gun for Indiana will be the factor of the game. If they can get going, then I think Indiana will pull off this upset and come out of LA with a high. But if they can't get going with the running game, they can't hit the 3-ball, then I could see the Clippers winning this by 10.
By 10. So we've seen Tyrese Halliburton be Mr. Pure point guard. Let's push it. Let's go, go, go. He does have one of the more wonky, 3-point jump shots in the NBA just off a form perspective. That little weird set shot. But we've seen players have a pure jump shot in the mid-range and more of a set shot when it comes from 3. I love this matchup for the Clippers. I think that Indy, to me, yes, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. It just felt they're just a weird team for me. Halliburton or Halle Baby, as some people call him. He's a really up and down player. Yeah. I like their pieces. Like I love Mathurin. Obi Toppin is really he's a really nice player off the bench. Pascal Siakam is a walking mismatch. Miles Turner can good shot blocker, can stretch the floor. I just think that James Harden, Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, and I think Derek Jones could be that versatile defender, whether it guards Pascal Siakam. Now, Pascal would have, the size and weight advantage over Derek Jones Jr. But I expect LA to leave Intuit Dome with a win. Now we got the betting side across. Let's dive into the fantasy side. Is there one or two particular players that you love in this matchup? Give me one for each team.
All right. So for Indiana, love Benedict Mathurin in this game. I love him in this game. If they can get going, the matchup favors Mathurin. And then for the Clippers, the Clippers are, I think, Zubac. Get going against Miles Turner, that would be a good sign for LA Clippers tonight.
I think that Zubac is in a great spot to bounce back. Now, Miles Turner is a really good shot blocker, but we saw Zubats be terrible against LA with no center, a matchup in which I thought he was going to absolutely punish,
Right.
bully, and dominate down low. Now, how do you stop or negate a shot blocker? You go into their chest. I
Yep.
love Zoo to force a handful of offensive and give this Clippers team a couple extra offensive possessions
Yep.
early and often.
Yep.
I think we could see a James Harden double night. In terms of fantasy, for me, it's hard not to go with your Mathurin play. But for the Pacers specifically, I like TJ McConnell in this matchup. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
if Halliburton can get going, if he gets into foul trouble that we know James Harden can kind of bait players into getting in, I can see TJ McConnell getting a an extended minutes rotation. Now for the Clippers, I mean, it's hard not to go with your Norman Powell's, your
Hmm.
James Harden's, but I'm gonna go with Zubats in this. He's a little expensive at 7.2K,
Yeah.
but I think he draws a favorable matchup going against Miles Turner, who can be inconsistent, especially on the defensive end on the floor. Now that we have covered all 6 games, we got one more segment, and it is your lock of the day. Brandon, give me your lock of the day for today's 6-game slate. Whether it be a money line, a spread, or a player to hammer, what's your lock of the day?
So I'll give you lock of the day, same game. DFS,
Ooh.
DFS, Anthony Edwards, lock of the day. Same game, Timberwolves money line.
Wow, that's spicy considering of the heater that he was on last night, and
Yeah.
they pulled off a big time win. For me, the lock of the day, um, not to go crazy about like taking, oh well, Boston's clearly gonna beat the brakes off of the Mavs. You know what? I might look like an idiot tomorrow, and we disagreed on it, but the Sacramento Kings are going to win tonight. Once again, that's the thing about these pick'em games. One of
Yeah.
us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong, but at
Hmm.
the end of the day, we're all going to have fun. We're all trying to make some money. We're all going to be, we're all trying to be rich one slip at a time. Now, Brandon, with that being the show, do you have any final thoughts, concerns, anything else you want to add for, whether it be in game, any players, teams in this slate, or just anything NBA in general?
Well, I see. Tomorrow night, we'll look to see what Chet Holmgren looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that return. We'll probably get into that tomorrow. With,
100%.
with back with Dusty and Lawson. Hopefully. But for me, just had a great show. I felt like this was a great show today, and I love being on whatever I can to talk about NBA fantasy and stuff.
100%. Now, from Lawson Turner, kind of holding it down for Dusty, who was under the weather and could not make this show. Thank you guys so much for watching this show. Thank you so much for making us part of your day. And from everybody here at the Total Apex Media family, this is Lawson Turner, and we will be seeing you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us as always, and we will talk to you guys later. Peace.